Hello.
Hi, Dondi.
How's it going? Okay, so the game.
The game.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I struggled. I've talked to you about my struggles. It's an issue. For sure, I think for me, probably the biggest thing was not having a partner.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that because there were parts where when I would get stuck in code, it was very hard for me to figure out. It's kind of like a writer's block. You don't really know like what else you need to do, or like you're writing an essay and you kind of get stuck. And it was like that. It's like I'd have an error and I'd try something to fix the error, and then it wouldn't fix. And so I'm like, well, crap, I don't know what to do. And since I never had someone who I was working on with, I didn't have like a specific person to go to. I was lucky that I had, a bunch of friends in the honors program who were also like comp sci people, and they would like kind of at least help me figure it out, and then I could usually get a few more lines of code from there.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely doing it on my own with as little experience as I have was not smart. I did have fun with it though. I had a lot of fun. I still have that working draft, which is very good, and I enjoyed doing that quite a lot. I also I learned a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It was very much trial by fire. I know that was kind of how it goes, but I learned a lot of stuff just through fixing my own bugs, like figuring out functions I didn't even know existed. And so that was really useful for me. Although I would say hard coding is probably not the path I would want to take in the future. But would do again, and definitely still want to complete that, advance it more. I'm attached to my game now, so.
Yeah, coming from someone who had a partner, it was really, really helpful, especially too because Nishant has prior coding experience. So what I could really help out at was being how do we conceptualize this, and then how do we know all the rules and the things we have to put in, and then we would talk it out, and we would actually on this board back here would draw out how we were planning to do it. And so it was really nice to have someone to bounce ideas off of, someone also too who knew what they were doing quite a bit.
Yeah.
So when I was well, I know that there's probably a way to do this, and this is what we need to do, and he's well, this is what I know, and then we would talk about it. So it was super helpful. I think it was a good learning experience. I think I would have learned more on my own because you said, you're kind of forced to just swim or drown almost to finish your game. So I learned a lot, and it was really nice to have someone to talk it with. It made it easier on me. But I think for real hard learning to do it again in the future, if I did it on my own, I would have been more forced to really, really go out of my way, because Nishant is obviously a great resource, and he's super duper smart and good at coding. So that was good. I did really enjoy it, and I liked too being able to the coolest thing I think about coding and what we do is having the idea in your head and being well, I can actually do that, or there's a function that does that, and being I can imagine how the process would flow, and I'm getting better at imagining the steps and how it would have to go, and talking it out with someone was obviously really helpful for that too. So the game was really fun, and as you probably could tell, me and Nishant had a lot of fun. We making the ambiance and the setting of it, and because we were kind of sad too, because when you jump to an adventure game, that it almost feels it's boring. So it was nice too that we got to add in a little bit of the storyline and adventure, and still get to experience that type of coding as well. Because it still is kind of like a map sometimes, because depending on what, if they choose to say no, then you're oh, you coward, you don't want to play again, you take your vodka and leave and stuff. So that was really fun. Yeah, that's about all I have for that.
I mean, kind of going off of that, I wish I'd had a bit more time to have fun with it, because just the more I got into it, and the longer your code gets, the more likely it is there's an issue. Mm-hmm. So kind of the past couple weeks, it's been more stressful than fun, which honestly I don't really think is the point. You should be doing it because you enjoy it. And so I just wish I probably had a partner from the beginning, because I definitely adding some ambiance, or even having someone who is a bit who could just double check. Yes, someone who could add experience would have been useful. Mm-hmm. But even someone just to double check or bounce things off of is nice, because when you're trapped in your room for 2 hours coding in Python, it can be a little stressful. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Overall, good experience.
Yeah, did like the game. So the Alan Turing article,
yes.
It was really interesting because it is still a philosophy paper, so it's a little bit hard to follow, but I think, like, what was really interesting is he kept kind of finding ways to refute the fact that, like, well, machines are, like, limited. Machines do as much as we tell them to do, and he would find ways to refute that, but I still find myself coming back to the fact that, like, what you said were, like, machines aren't smart. Like, we make them smart, and we, like, give them the tools to be smart. So at the end of the day, like, machines are limited almost as far as we are limited in our ability to, like, create them that way, which I don't know if I could, like... it was hard for me to consider the fact that, like, if we could create a machine that was, like, self-learning or had, like, infinite capacity, because the other thing is, like, when it's a finite thing, like, there has to be an end of, like, what it can do almost. So, like, I don't know. It was interesting, but I found myself being like, but, like, the imitation game, the whole concept is really interesting, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I was really drawn to, like, the whole the initial question he posed of, like, not can a machine, think really, but it's more can a machine imitate a human?
Yeah.
And it was interesting reading it, like, knowing it's a philosophy paper, even though we're reading it in a comp sci class, because ultimately he doesn't really answer the question. Like, he kind of does, but it's not like a hard answer, which is a very philosophy type thing to do.
You're like, can it do it? Maybe.
Maybe, yeah. But I thought it was interesting just thinking, kind of going off the finite thing, it's almost like, it's kind of like a God argument in that it's like, if you can create something more powerful than you, then how powerful is the person? Kind of like if, like, God can create a rock bigger than himself, and that whole paradox. I don't know, I guess if I wanted to try and answer the question, I would say I don't think we could ever actually replicate, like, perfect human intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
But that's because there's it's the idea of programming emotions, like, going off of like, we have to be able to tell the machine what to do. So we are in control, really, if we want to make a fully human AI. But this whole emotional side and kind of the idea of, like, soul and spirituality is something that even if we don't understand it really, so it's kind of hard to put that into a machine and figure out a way for it to learn. Like, we have learning machines, which is cool. And it's amazing to see someone, so long ago, like, predict things that we're just kind of getting to now.
Yeah.
But I think this would be a really cool way to go for the rest of the class. Just kind of exploring that, seeing what we could do.
Yeah, because, like, even with, like, some of our games, like, there was opportunities for, like, primitive AI, like you were talking about in the Blackjack game, like, we could have had a player, and I think it was really interesting, Hayden, I believe, who had, like, the confidence level, like, thinking that you could program confidence, like, for a machine, kind of just, like, because I was thinking, like, I think a machine would be able to, like, trick a human into thinking that it was human, but, like, the amount of hours and time it would take into, like, being able to actually program that would be, like, ridiculous, because you would almost have to anticipate, like, any sort of response and, like, have it appropriately respond to that. Like, it really seems to me that, like, it's just, like, AI is going to be, like, what we do with it. And that, like, at the end of the day, it's all, like, patterns and stuff. And, like, that's why it almost, like, never really works, because humans, like, have patterns, but it's not always a pattern. So, like, when something breaks that, like, you can't anticipate, then, like, what is the machine supposed to do? So, like, because he was talking about, too, that, like, machines can't make, like, errors is one of the arguments, and then it wouldn't be human, but, like, you can program a machine to make an error, which still means that machines can't make errors. They just, like, do things on purpose that you tell them. Like, they're told to be errors. So they would have to just be, like, as much to our knowledge, like, told how to be human, which still, like, means there's going to be a limit where you realize that it's, like, not human.
True. I guess also, like, if you're saying they're told to be human, it's, like, that depends on who's programming. Because that's a different definition. There's not really a definition of being human like there is. Once again, this is turning into a philosophy class.
Yeah.
No, I enjoyed that though.
Interdisciplinary.
Oh yeah. It's all what honors is about. But yeah, like different people are going to have different ideas of how. Oh my God! It is loud outside. Is that a helicopter?
I think it's a helicopter. Can you see it?
Sorry, Dondi.
That's fine.
It's a helicopter.
It's gonna be over.
Yeah.
Will be. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, people have different ideas of what it means to be human, which also means people have different ideas of what a human-like machine is going to be.
That's true.
And so since you don't really have a way to take every single idea of every single programmer and put that into a machine, it's hard to imagine a machine actually like thinking for itself. And I guess I don't know. What for me, it's like it'd be interesting to see a way of expanding the imitation game of not only can a machine imitate a human, but can a machine, if we ever actually make a machine that thinks like one, could that machine then do the same thing and make another machine that thinks like a human?
Because I was thinking, like, I've seen a bit of the movie Her, where it's like Joaquin Phoenix like falls in love with the AI woman because she like knows and learns how to adapt to like his patterns and personality. And it was kind of making me think too that like when Apple Music or Spotify like suggest music that they think you would like, it's like a very human like thing to be like, hey, I like listened to this artist, I thought you would like them. It sounds like what you listen to, but it's all based on patterns. So I'll listen to some of the stuff and I'm like, I hate this.
Yeah, and then what if you want to break the pattern too? It's just like, I'm going to listen to a completely different genre today.
That it would just not make sense to the AI because like you had been in this pattern for so long that would take a bit for it to like register it as a new pattern that you could have almost. But I don't know, I was thinking about that today, but
I think it'd be fascinating to explore like bugs in AI. Because it's like if we know we have working AI and some primitive, some pretty advanced, like very few things that are pretty advanced. But if you explore, it's like what small aspects of the AI like doesn't really replicate humanity, and then maybe exploring possible ways to fix that. That'd be a cool thing just to think about for like life.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's a good enough discussion.
Yeah. Okay, bye
okay,
Gandhi.
bye.
We'll see you in class.